22nd. 2023 is hereby called to order. Ms. Carleen, can you please conduct roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Adams. Present. Mr. Grow. Here. Mr. Melvin. Here. Mr. Wendell. Here. Mr. Arabi. Here. Chairman Oten.
Here.
Mrs. Chasson. Here. Mr. Lorraine. Here. President Chasson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Carleen. If everyone would please rise, we'll be led in the invocation by Councilman Lorraine, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilwoman Chasson.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. I would also like to remind everyone, if you would please either silence or turn off your cell phones. If you are interested in addressing the council, we respectfully ask that you fill out the blue forms at the entrance and get them up here to the council clerk. And just as a reminder, when we get to ordinances, we will call for public input at that time before the council discusses and we bring it to a vote. On resolutions, there will be no request for public input. It'll be just simply the council discussing, and then we'll bring it to a vote. So if you are interested in speaking on any resolutions, you do want to fill out a blue form. With that said, we'll jump right into tonight's agenda. Item A, approval of minutes. Item 1, I entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the August 8th, 2023 regular session. So moved by Councilman Jones, second by Councilman Adams. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas and 0 nays. Item B, do we have any state and or federal legislators in the audience? We have none. Item C, we have none. Brings us to item D, certificate of recognition. Item 2, Parish President Archie Chasson to present a certificate of recognition recognizing the chartering of the newest chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Mr. President, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Bayou Pearl is a chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha. Ooh, that's a tongue twister. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated is made up of local women prided in cultivating and encouraging academic and ethical standards. The Bayou Pearls is here to be a resource for their community with programs for students, helping them to get into college, and also offering mental health and awareness support. Now, therefore, I, Archie Chasson, Parish President of Lafourche, do hereby recognize the Bayou Pearls in celebration of the chartering of their local chapter. I hear there's going to be a big shindig on campus at Nicholls State on Saturday to recognize all the men and women. And as I told them, this is a great asset, not only for them and the young women that they're going to mentor, but for our community to have them working alongside of us in government and a lot of civic organizations to help mentor the young women that they're going to bring up. So congratulations, ladies.
I said Bayou Pearls. Thank you. Thank you.
If anyone wants to get up and speak, just state your name and address for the record.
Okay. Tanya Harris, 230 Borges Drive, Berg, Louisiana, 70363. As the president of Bayou Pearls, I want to say thank you so much to the Lafourche leaders. It certainly is a testament of our feverish work that we've done throughout the communities. We enjoyed it every moment, and we want to thank you for your partnerships. We want to thank you for your collaborations, and it's truly a testament of what we can do when we stick together. Thank you for helping us change the dynamics of our communities.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, moving right along. Item E, presentations and our updates. Number 3, we have Mr. Matthew with Calder, Slavin and Company LLC to discuss the 2022 audit.
Thank you very much. Matthew Margaglio, Coldest Slavin and Company. I'm the engagement partner. Y'all should have received a packet in your presentation materials that will go over that summarizes your audit report for the year end December 31st, 2022. On the first page of the packet, we describe the summary of the financial report. That describes our independent auditor's report on the financials, internal controls, and the federal compliances. And it also describes the financial information that is that of management's and the council. Those reports talk about management's responsibility or the parish's responsibility for the financials, internal controls, compliance, fraud detection and prevention. And it talks about our responsibilities to perform our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, to express an opinion on whether the financials are fairly presented in accordance with GAAP. We do that by examining transactions on a test basis. We also do it by interviewing management, members of the council, reviewing minutes and other documentation that's available to us to determine what is applicable, what would we consider significant, what is significant to the users of the financial statements. I'm here tonight to go over the results of that financial data, of our reports, and then also hit some highlights of those financial information. Our results, the type of opinion that we issued on the financial statements was an unmodified opinion. That's a clean opinion, the best opinion you can receive from an audit firm. It means that the users of your financials, your constituents, grantors, bondholders, are able to rely on the accuracy and truthfulness of the information contained in the financial packet. We also looked at your federal dollars. This year you had a substantial amount of federal dollars. Normally you receive about $10 million. This year it was substantially more because of FEMA. Y'all got paid an outrageous amount extra for FEMA recovery. We audited those programs and we issued an unmodified opinion on compliance. That means with the federal rules and regulations of the major programs we looked at, y'all complied in all material respects with those regulations from the federal government. We did look at some financial laws. The legislative auditor out of Baton Rouge asked us to come in as part of our audit and look at some things that they consider significant to the financial compliances. We noted two issues that we had to bring to y'all's attention. One is a budget noncompliance related to the library revenues. You budgeted a certain dollar amount and the revenues actually came in substantially lower. There were amendments throughout, but you didn't hit those targets. It seems like there's a timing issue with the library almost every year that we've been presenting this. Again, it wasn't a major issue, but it is a visible finding, so we had to issue that. The other finding was continuing disclosures. Y'all receive a substantial amount of debt right now. Some of that debt, it's only one or two bonds, have what we call a continuing disclosure requirement. That debt is not held by a local bank. It's actually available to the general public for trading on municipal securities and things like that. Part of the requirement of that bond is that your financial report get loaded into a federal reporting system. That report was missed. It was then caught up once we caught it, but due to the timing, we had to issue that as a finding, especially due to the dollar amount of debt that you'll have outstanding at the end of the year. It would be significant to the users of those financial statements. When they look online through the SEC, they want to be able to see what your financial results are. And as I mentioned, your financial reports are good, so the users will be able to rely on that heavily. As far as internal control issues, we had none to report, no significant deficiencies or no material weaknesses. So overall, the policies and procedures that we examined and that we tested appear to be operating effectively and within the scope of the audit. On to the next page. This is where we talk about the revenues, expenses, and fund balances. I just want to note here that for these dollar amounts, when we initially prepared this graphic information, we included all of your COVID money and of all of your FEMA money, and it skewed the results of the graphics so much to the tune of almost $35 million in 1 year that would make everything else kind of insignificant when we're trying to compare apples to apples. So those dollars have been pulled out of this graphic information. It is including your financial packet. But for presentation here tonight, we wanted it to be a little bit more comparable to see where you really were realistically, operationally for the past year. Your total governmental revenue from all of your funds, all of your sources was $86 million. That is up substantially from the prior year. That is primarily due to the timing of your ad valorem tax. You got almost zero the prior year, and you caught up all of it plus some in the current year, and we'll see that more specifically in just a minute. Your total governmental expenditures was about $88 million compared to $73 million. The biggest growth there was that y'all paid off a major bond. You paid off about $10 million of debt, which accounts for almost all of the increase there. Again, we pulled out all of the FEMA stuff, But overall, it left you with $196 million. That does include all of your debt, all of your funding, everything else ties into that number. It's too hard to extract that from your fund balance number. If we flip over to the next page, page 3, this is the graphic of your governmental revenue, where you got it from. You can see the ad valorem tax is the blue portion of this, how skewed it was from one year to the other, but when we average that out, y'all are pretty consistent year over year looking at historicals. You took in about $38 million this year, about $1 million the last year. That puts you at a $40 million total for 2 years, and your historical is just over $20 million. Your sales tax was up to about $21 million from 18, and the rest of your revenues is relatively consistent. Federal, state sources, charges for services, and things like that have all pretty much recouped and are looking pretty strong. On the next page, page 4, this is a breakdown of how y'all spent your money from all of your funds and sources. You spent about 34% of your total funding on your public works, about 12% on capital outlay. General government was another 11%. Culture and recreation, health and welfare were 10%. And debt service skewed the numbers a little bit, being 21%. As I previously mentioned, y'all paid off a large debt during the year. On to the next page 5. This is just your general fund, and we like to focus on that one for the presentation because all of your other funds are dedicated or restricted for some purpose, taxes, whatever the case may be. The general fund is your catch-all fund. We talked about it heavily last year, for those of y'all that were going to be remembering, that it allowed you to continue funding operations by absorbing everything into that general fund. So without it, it would be very tough. This year, your general fund was able to recover through getting repaid from some of those sources, your ad valorem tax rolling back in, to the tune of y'all took in about $15 million compared to $6 million last year. But looking at this year versus prior, it's pretty consistent year over year. Your total expenditures was down to about $13 million, and it left you with an ending fund balance, which is the best that y'all have been in a while, of about $8.8 million. Some of that was due to COVID money that you got in that absorbed into that fund balance number. The final page that I have here, second to last page, is revenue by sources, page 6. As you can see, your general fund only took in about $4.3 million of ad valorem taxes. Licenses and permits were about $2.6 million. State revenue was about $1.2, and your gaming and alcohol taxes was about another $1.5. And you can see just the pieces of where this comes from, and we saw more importantly last year how significant the ad valorem taxes were when we look at how much money y'all get from the various sources. And on to the last page. As a local government, y'all are typically what would be considered almost a service organization. Y'all are here to provide not so much a good, you don't sell a product. You provide the community with the resources and benefits. So we can see that your salaries and benefits makes up about 58% of your total expenditures in your general fund. That's about $7.7 million and is by far the largest piece of your pie. That's very typical for governments to be well over 50% in salaries and benefits. Parish governments and major municipalities are in the 60% range, so you are not far off from the target of what we're consistently seeing. Everything else kind of falls in line with what we would expect for the parish and other municipalities and other local governments, and nothing outrageous from one year to the next in where your general fund ended up for the end of the year. If there are any questions, I can try to answer those at this time.
Anyone have any questions? I think the biggest takeaway for me when we sat down was the impact of both COVID and Ida with these funds. It really skews the numbers a lot. It makes it difficult to understand and interpret. So I thank you for pointing that out in your presentation. No one has no questions? None? I think we're good.
All right. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Much appreciated. Safe travels. Okay, with that said, we'll move to item F, Legal Advisor Report. We have none, and I do see one. All right, here we go. Item G, Engineers, Architect Reports. I was about to move on without them.
How y'all doing? Joe Picciola with Picciola and Associates, 115 Picciola Parkway in Cutoff. So on the airport corridor bridge project, this is a project that's going to connect LA 3235 to LA 1 and then on across the bridge with a 3-lane lift span bridge to Airport Road in Galliano. Sea Level Construction's the contractor. He's continually working on forming up and pouring the concrete towers on the bridge section right now. He's also been working on the control house on the side. He's actually a little bit further along than that picture shows. The next span he'll start having a span across, a horizontal span across, so you'll start seeing what the shape of the bridge looks like. And then subsequently, he's still working on the LA1 side, doing the same thing going up. So in the next couple of months, you'll see it's going to start really looking like a bridge. They are working on the sub-base work all the way to 3235. They kind of pulled off for now, but that's really not the critical item on the schedule, so they'll be starting working on that again soon. Let's see. And Nolan Tube Southfall, we've been working still with the parish, doing some layout on swale ditches and the ditches behind the houses as they continue to progress on that project. The Go-to-Meta boat launch is complete. The contractor was Outer Limit Contractors. He finished on June the 22nd, and currently we gave him substantial completion, and they're in the lean period. We do plan on paving the aggregate portion in the upcoming road project. That part of the project is there. I mean, the aggregate's holding up well right now. I went there the other day, and it still looks good. But it's elevated high so that when you get a high tide, you don't get your feet wet when you try to launch your boat. But we are going to pave the whole thing down at the end this fall. Kind of out of order there, but the hurricane damages to the parish bridges, Sea Level Construction is the contractor. He is complete as of June the 12th, and they are currently in the lean period. They have 3 punch list items, some lights, and they got 2 windows that are cracked that they need to replace. That's the bridge project. And then the pump station project, on Twin Oaks, Norris and Boudreaux is the contractor. They moved in about a week or so ago, and they basically took down the old building. They've been working on the trash racks this past week, and then they'll start assembling the new building soon. As far as Rita goes, I'll just talk. Rita goes, we've submitted our 95% plans, or our preliminary plans and our permit drawings to the administration, and they're reviewing that. Priority road list 2022, we've done all of our surveying, all of our plans. Our plans are about 90% done, and they're also being reviewed by Parish DPW. We're meeting with the parish tomorrow to iron out a few streets that we had questions on. And hopefully we'll go to bid pretty soon. And storm damage repairs to the Leeville boat launch, Lowland Construction's the contractor. We actually gave him the notice to proceed yesterday, the 21st. He's going to start moving his materials and his equipment on site later this week and some next week. He doesn't plan on any major closures of the boat launch. He's going to try to work in certain areas and just cordon it off, rope it off where he's working at. We're going to have a closure when he does do the dredging on near the boat launches for a couple of weeks while he does that. But we'll put out a notice and let everybody know when they're going to have to close it. But that's the only closure he foresees right now. So he'll do most of the work without closing the boat launch. Any questions?
Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, Joe, on the bridge and the corridor, I'm assuming that the road from 3235 to LA1 is probably going to be more than likely done toward the end. It would probably create a problem if they did it now with the construction going on the bridge. I'm assuming, I don't know. What would you think about that?
The plan is to open up the whole project at the same time.
At the same time?
Sometime next summer. So he is using part of the entrance at LA1 to the connector road for his laydown area and storing of equipment and whatnot. But I mean, he's gonna have to start working on that after the first of the year sometime to start getting ready so he can make the schedule.
And that whole project was funded by the port, 4.5 million, the parish, 4.5 million, the state, 9 million, and the Fed, 17 million, am I right?
Yeah,
And that's your
Roughly.
project. And who maintains that road and that bridge after?
Parish.
Parish. I figured that they'd give it to us. They're very nice in giving us that bridge. But it's going to be new, so we shouldn't have any problem for 10 years. And then the Leeville boat launch they're getting ready to kick that off, right?
They moving on site this week.
Fishing pier,
Fish and pier too.
kayak,
Kayak launch too.
keep coming back.
Yeah, I remember asking DOTD in that meeting about if they had to turn it over to us, and that was part of the agreement if we want to be involved in it. So if you want it, you got to
If
take
you
it
want
over
their
after.
money, you have to turn it, you have to take it.
Curiosity question. So I noticed in the pictures, unless they're deceiving, the bridge looks like it's not symmetrically situated on the bayou. Is that intentional?
It actually matches the channel of the bayou, but the channel of the bayou is not perpendicular to the road.
Wow.
So that's why
It looks odd. Makes it
does
look odd.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
But you
Thank
still
you.
have,
Wait.
you have more clearance there, a good bit more clearance than you have at the locks or at the other bridges too, about the same.
Good.
Can I-
Follow up?
Mr. Chasson, didn't, on the Leeville boat launch, didn't Artwin get some help from the federal government with Bill Cassidy's office on the Leeville boat launch?
So it's, what you guys saw was a press release from Senator Cassidy's office announcing that FEMA fully funded the project. So the federal delegation likes to take credit when we finally do all the work and get the money, but they help kind of sim it through the system when we have time.
So we did get a good bit of help from them guys.
$1.2 million worth of help, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So we're initially going to float that, so you guys know that money's coming out of the big bond that we did right after the hurricane until we finally get that reimbursement in. That's how we've been paying
to
for
reimburse.
the services, yeah.
Yeah. That's why those numbers will be so crazy for a while. But thank you, Joe. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
We have any other engineers and architects in the audience? That's it? All right, brings us to item H. Public wishing to address the council public hearings agenda items, et cetera. Ms. Corleen? We have none. Brings us to item I, public hearing and ordinances for ratification. I know you entertain a motion to open public hearing. So moved by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Adams. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas and 0 nays. Item 4, ordinance requesting no dumping of trash, $500 fine signs to be posted north of West 149th Street, the first lot off of LA1, Galliano, Louisiana, Ward 10, District 9, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of no dumping of trash, $500 fine signs, and providing for penalties for the violations thereof. Moved by Mr. Lorraine, second by Mr. Grow. Would anyone from the public like to comment on item number 4? Second call, public input on ordinance 4. Last and final call for public input on this item. Anyone from the council? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas and 0 nays. Item 5, ordinance to install caution autistic child and area signs to be placed before and after 120 West 190th Street and 120 West 191st Street, Galliano, Louisiana, Ward 10, District 9, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of caution autistic child and area signs as stated above. Moved by Mr. Lorraine, second by Mr. Grow. Would anyone from the public like to comment on item 5? Second call, ordinance 5. Last and final call for public input on ordinance number 5. Anyone from the council? All in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas and 0 nays. Item 6, ordinance requesting that a traffic calming device and the appropriate signage be installed pending appropriate funding is available on Esplanade Drive, Thibodaux, Louisiana, Ward 1, District 1, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana. Moved by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Adams. Would anyone from the public like to comment on ordinance number 6? Second call, ordinance number 6. Last and final call for public input on item number 6. Anyone from the council? Mr. Araby.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Items 6, 7, 8, and 9 has nothing to do with the councilman representing that area and his constituents. But I'm going to have a hard time voting for this item here because of the fact that I still have 3 streets in my area, it's been about a year now, that still hasn't had the speed humps put on them. Again, the parish started back on it. Last Tuesday, they put one down this Tuesday, but we still got several of them to be put on the 2 streets that they started on, and I still got a whole street left. So I don't feel comfortable voting on some additional speed humps when I still have 3 in my area that has not been completed yet. Not saying, Mr. Jones, that when mine get completed, you bring it back, I'll support it. But that's just how I feel right now for my constituents, that I can't support it. Thank you.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Arabi, well concerned about your constituency, but this is my district, and I want to put them on there. Whether you vote for it or not, that's up to you. But I think this is for the safety of the people. It's not for individual council. So I ask this council, please support this.
Mr. Grew?
So Archie, each one says pending appropriate fundings available. So I'm assuming each one of these that anybody brings up had the traffic study done.
Mhm.
And are we appropriating the money in order of them being approved at a meeting? Or are we, I mean, I could imagine there's some that might be more, immediate concerns, so we need to hurry and get one there, but would he have any, should he have any concerns that we're not going to finish his before you go do these?
No. I mean, we bounced the Lennon out of the order. The issue, and it wasn't just in Mr. Arabi's district, right? It was with the few that popped up. I think Councilman Adams had a couple in his district that still need to be put down. I think Mr. Otan has 1 or 2, and I know Daniel's got 1 or 2 down the bar that we still have to put down.
You should have known with me. Y'all know how I feel about it.
No, I know, but I think there's like a very old ordinance that
It's
has
gotta
one
be
somewhere,
old.
right?
Y'all know my thoughts on it.
It wasn't
Bring it
before
back.
you, and we bounced around. The reason I paused it is because before, I think Mr. Arabi's streets alone was some $200,000 worth of speed humps. So before we spent that kind of money and put that type of operation and maintenance on the back of Public Works and the issues that we know we have with these things 5, 6, 7 years down the road with the boats waddling out and stuff like that, I went to the sheriff's office and I asked them to do some type of traffic study to say, all right, where are we putting these things down, right? Where we have put them down, are they actually controlling the speeding, right? Or do people just increase speed in between them and then slow down when they hit them, that sort of thing. In a majority of cases, the sheriff's office came back and I had a meeting with the sheriff, I guess it was around Mother's Day, and he said in most cases they do work. So we ordered the remaining speed humps we needed from Mr. Arabi and began to put them down once they came in. I will tell you that we had somewhere around $200,000 worth of funding in the speed hump fund. The sheriff's office contributed $50,000. I think Mr. Arabi, maybe Mr. Jones had put some money in the budget last year. Mr. Arabi has asked for money in next year's budget. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers to see if we can even afford the 4 or 3 that are on here. I don't know right off the top of my head, but all the ones from Mr. Arabi's district have been ordered.
And we had, in the last administration, they were denying all of them. I mean, we had a bunch, that we wanted to consider. Are y'all looking at, like we did with Abbey Road when we overlaid that in the first term, building it into the blacktop? Are y'all looking at that? It seems like it's less of a burden on the neighbor that lives there for the boom, the way it's a gradual deal. Y'all looking at that on any of our road overlays right now?
We are. The problem becomes I don't want to say a political question, right? But, Mr. Jones has these 3 on the agenda tonight. I don't know that he wants to wait 1.5 years or 2 years till we get to these streets to overlay them, to put them in, right? He'd want them now. So do we put the speed humps in? I will tell you, I've also had some conversations internally with the sheriff's office about amending the subdivision requirements and actually making the developer just put speed humps in from the get-go. Because, and I know you're shaking your head. I'm not a big fan of speed humps either, right? I do them because you guys request them and you pass an ordinance and the constituents want them. That's why we continue to fund them. I'm not a fan of them personally either. But if we're going to continue to see these issues with long streets and new developments, why should we bear that burden, right? Why not just put it on the front end on the development? That way it's in the concrete or in the asphalt when they already do it.
Mr. Melvin?
Yes, sir. I've in the 2 short terms I've been here, I know we've lost like a year to Ida and COVID, but I've always asked, do we know the company who handles the speed bumps? Because if it's everything coming down to cost, if we coming down to cost, I know when I was a kid, up until I was a teenager, we laid a little line of asphalt. Might have cost $200. How much does a speed bump cost? Can you tell me? The modern day ones we're using, the plastic, all the bolts?
$7,000.
Okay. I think $200 is a lot better for the taxpayers, in my opinion. And I'd like to know, I'm going to do a little digging, maybe make a public service request, but I want to know why we're paying $7,000 when we can lay a line of asphalt? And again, hold on, I know that these things may look pretty, but 7,000 versus, I mean, when I was a kid, believe me, those asphalt humps slowed you down.
It's a liability issue, so the emergency vehicles can get over them and that sort of thing. That's why you see the ones in the city of Thibodeau are more like $15,000 because they have the big speed tables. You know, it is what it is.
Emergency vehicles, I know the clearance on emergency vehicles is pretty high. I mean, you know, whether you're talking about a fire truck, ambulance, or the salvage unit. I just think this needs to be looked into because we can have a lot of speed bumps for $7,000 doing them the old way.
And it's not so much the clearance, Mr. Melvin. It's the fact that when you drive in an ambulance or a fire truck and you hit one of those little just jolts of an asphalt or a tugboat rope or whatever else you want to put on the street, and even for a car, it causes a lot more issues for that driver than gently gliding over the speed.
Well,
bump.
hence,
That's why they design like
it's
that.
called a speed bump, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to slow them down. Not that I want to see anybody getting a little late to the hospital, but again, I'm looking at the cost since this seems to be a cost issue.
I think people all just learn how to drive, and we shouldn't have to put any of them.
Hey, amen to
But,
that. I
you know,
agree. That's why
let's
we
just
have
roll with that
laws.
theory.
You know, I agree.
Yeah. Installing potholes would help. It's the same thing.
We could just not pave streets and just roll that way, right? We could do that.
Mr. Araby.
And Mr. Jones, I'm not against you having your speed humps. I'm not against that. I want you to understand that. I'm against passing additional speed humps now, and they go ahead of mine that I've been waiting on for a year. If they tell me mine's going to get done, completely done, I have no problem. Thank you.
Mr. Lorraine.
Yes, as you know, whoever applies for speed humps, there's a criteria you have to meet. How many speed humps do we have on the list?
Can you answer that one, Mr. President?
A bunch. I mean, we probably have, 20 or so left to do for Mr.
Well,
Araby.
I think that's the scare. The scare is I think we should put a hold on this until we can complete the list and then go. Because sometimes the ones that's on the list that should be done doesn't get done. Sometimes somebody gets ahead of them. It's and nothing against Jones's speed humps, but we're only going to put speed humps in his district.
So,
What about everybody else?
Mr. Chairman, if I can.
Mr. President.
Since 2020, we've done 17 speed hump installations, 9 in District 6, 2 in District 1, 4 in District 2, 5 different traffic studies. Of those 17 speed humps, 1 went on Waverly, 8 go to St. Philip, 8 go to St. Louis, 6 go to Market, 8 go to Greenville, and 6 go to Io.
So that was already done?
No, that's what's 17 have been done. The remaining
Okay.
27 are all for Mr.
So why
Araby.
don't you just delay this, get all of those done, and then start your list like it should be?
I mean, I don't see an issue with passing Mr. Jones's speed humps if we passed all the rest of them, knowing that we're going to get to
And
it.
another thing, they're talking about the cost of these things. I was told that when we first bought these things, it was $2,000 a piece. And when they break, they come with the coal mix and they fix it. That's just as good as a speed hump. And probably 20 times cheaper if you do it that way, in-house. That could be done in-house very easy. But will it be done? I just think that you need to catch up. Don't just tell us what's going to be done. Sometimes when we told what's going to be done, it doesn't always get done. So nothing against you, but it needs to be halted until you catch up, then you get going again. That's my opinion, and that's my opinion only.
Thank you, Mr. Lorraine. Follow-up, Mr. Jones?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Lorraine, it should have been halt long time ago. Mr. Araby, it looked like you get all the speed bumps, 2 in District 1. If you read these orders, 6, 7, 8, and 9, says pending appropriate funding. It didn't say go out and do it. It say depending on appropriate funding. And there's nothing wrong with putting a list. Why you got a road list, Daniel? Why you got a priority list for roads? You holler every 2 weeks about that.
Why
Now,
you
for
have one
several
more, you
reasons
taking
for
my
a
money?
speed bump, appropriate funding. You should have a list for that too.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Shasta.
A third call Mr. Araby.
Mr. Shaston, you mentioned 27?
He said yes, he confirmed 27.
27 that has been put down?
No.
No,
That's,
I didn't think
that's
so.
total.
You got 10 that's been put down, now probably 12.
No, that's what I'm saying. We've done 17 so far since 2020. And then what we have, we've done the one on Waverly. We've done some of them, right? But we still have 8 on St. Philip, 8 on St. Louis, 6 on Market, 8 on Greenville, 6 on IU.
Well, and I agree with you, Jerry, but you stood on this council for quite a few years. I never heard anything about speed humps again until I brought them back up. Now that I bring them up, everybody wants to get them again. But they got shot down, I guess, when you was on the council before. But now I brought it up, I got approval, and now everybody wants speed humps.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Araby,
Jones.
Mr. Araby, the funding was taken out of the budget for speed bumps. And you was a project coordinator for many years. You know that. And you know, we sit here and we argue for speed bumps for many years. But you was the main coordinator that was supposed to be installing them. You didn't have the funding. Now, I didn't say I was coming here to cut in front of you to do a speed bump, pending on appropriate funding. And that's all I ask. They're in a list, and that's the right way to do it.
Mr. Melvin.
Mr. President, if we pass Mr. Jones's speed humps initiatives, is Mr. Araby, barring an emergency, is Mr. Araby's bump still going to be ahead of Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. So I'll just take a quick minute because as y'all know, I'm pretty anti-speed humps. I don't think they work. I've sat on St. Patrick's Street and raced, and I watched what the people do to them. I've researched it over and over and over the last 8 years. And if y'all do any of this, so speed humps are considered annotated. That's an annotated way of slowing people down, and people consider it annotated from coast to coast, even around the world. They're expensive. I'm read straight. They interfere with response times of emergency vehicles. As somebody who's been responding to calls for 32 years, our problem's up on Highway 1 and Highway 3, not so much in the subdivisions. They reduce property values. They increase noise levels. They increase, we all know this, they increase wear and tear on commercial vehicles and residential vehicles. So garbage trucks, just everybody goes up and down on a regular basis. They increase air pollution. We're supposed to be going green, right? They reduce fuel efficiency, increase gas consumption. This is all studies that have been completed on speed humps. So where do I think we should be going with this? I don't think we should be putting potholes on the streets. That's what I consider speed humps. They're potholes. I think that we need to go to what's the new, latest and greatest, which is driver feedback signs, which is what you see in new developments. It's what you see Thibodeau's going to them, where they alert you and let you know how fast you're going. That's the way of the future. I would respectfully ask if DPW can maybe research and see what the studies say, cost-wise, liability-wise. I remember when I first got on this council, the risk management group was always having people coming because their vehicles were getting punctured their tires were being punctured by nails coming up out the speed humps. So I think it's an antiquated way of doing things. I think we need to look towards the future. That's all I got to say. With that said, let's bring this to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Nays, raise your hand. So for the record, nays will be Councilman Lorraine, Councilman Araby, and Councilman Otan. So the motion passes with 6 yeas and 3 nays as stated. Good?
Yes, sir.
All right, brings us to item 8. I'm sorry, item 7. We're moving that slow. Item 7, ordinance requesting that 2 traffic calming devices and appropriate signage be installed pending appropriate funding is available on Paula Drive, Thibodeau, Louisiana, Ward 1, District 1, Parish, Lafourche, State, Louisiana. Moved by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Adams. Would anyone from the public like to comment on ordinance number 7? Second call, public input, ordinance number 7. Last and final call, ordinance number 7. Nobody wants to get in this debate. Anyone from the council? All right, we'll bring it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Nays, raise your hand. So motion will pass with 6 yeas, 3 nays, those nays being Councilman Lorraine, Councilman Araby, and Councilman Otan. Item 8, ordinance requesting that 2 traffic calming devices and the appropriate signage be installed pending appropriate funding is available on Frederick Drive, Thibodeau, Louisiana, Ward 1, District 1, Parish of Lafourche, State, Louisiana. Moved by Councilman Jones, second by Councilman Adams. Would anyone from the public like to comment on ordinance number 8? Second call, public input, ordinance number 8. Last and final call, public input, ordinance number 8. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we kind of already prepared for you, right? So Dylan's already run the numbers. So what I just leaned over to told Mr. Jones was these things say, the ordinances say traffic calming devices, right? I think you could argue that one of these light up signs or the speed check signs could be considered a traffic calming device. So what I think we may do is just pick one of the streets that Mr. Jones wants to focus on, order one of the signs, see how fast we can get it when it comes in, put it up for a month, and then ask the sheriff's office to go back and do the same thing we did on the streets and see if they work. If they do work, then we have the option to look at these versus continuing to put the hardscape down.
Ms. Shessa?
Do we have a price on it?
So they're cheaper than the speed humps, right? Just the flash sign with the speed limit is $4,800, and then the solar powered just flash stop sign is $1,700. So
And that's going to tell them when they're speeding, or it just flashes the speed limit sign?
it's both. So if you're going,
If they're
it'll
going
set the
over, it's
speed
going to
limit,
let them know they're
and
going
it'll
over.
flash your speed at you.
That's what
Yeah.
I want.
I have a question, Mr. President. So what you just said on that particular sign, if residents are upset with, and they wanted to do this themselves, do we have a process where if the neighborhood got together and purchased one of these signs, I mean, would there be any restrictions on getting the sign erected? How could that work? Could there be like some kind of cooperative agreement?
Yeah, so
between-
we did it once when I worked for the city of Thibodaux with the HOA in Acadia Woods, where they put up the money for the sign, did a quick CA with the city. We actually ordered it because we can get it cheaper as the government, and then our guys went and installed it. So yeah, we could look at doing something like that too.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, any further discussion? This is item 8.
This is item 7, you just mentioned, we're going to 8.
We're on,
eight
I'm on
now.
8. I've already done public, now I'm
Yes,
on,
done public. You get ready
all right.
to take a vote.
So I think the president just sold me if he commits to doing it that way. So with that said, we'll bring it to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passed, 9 yeas, 0 nays. You sold it. You sold it. Should have been a car salesman. Item 9, ordinance requesting that 2 traffic calming devices and appropriate signage be installed pending appropriate funding is available on Carla Drive, Thibodaux, Louisiana, Ward 1, District 1, Parish, Lafourche, State of Louisiana. Moved by Councilman Jones, second by Mr. Adams. Anyone from the public like to comment on item 9? Second call, ordinance number 9. Last and final call, ordinance number 9. Anyone from the council? There being none, we'll bring it to a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, 9 yeas and 0 nays. Item 10, ordinance approving civic source to public advertise and auction to educated property located at 20644 Highway 1, Golden, Louisiana, 70357, assessment number 0102155800, with a minimum starting bid of $13,741.80 due to non-payment of ad valorem property taxes, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Mr. Araby. Would anyone from the public like to comment on item 10? Second call, public comment on item 10. Last and final call for public input on item 10. Anyone from the council? Mr. Jones?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, has any of this property been jumped in front of anybody else?
No, sir.
Do we think, it's just a quick question, is this, some of these properties look like it's Hurricane Ida result of Hurricane Ida?
No, these are way older than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Copy that. Thank you. Any further discussion? Bring it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas and 0 nays. Item 11, ordinance approving civic source to public advertise and auction to educated property located on Sandra Street, La Rose, Louisiana, 70373, assessment number 0041596200, with a minimum starting bid of $12,553.14 due to non-payment of ad valorem property tax, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Ms. Chesson will move on behalf of the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Would anyone from the public like to comment on item 11? Second call, public input, item 11. Last and final call, anyone like to comment on ordinance number 11? Anyone from the council? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas and 0 nays. Item 12, ordinance providing for the incurring of debt and issuance of not to exceed $16,700,000 aggregate principal amount of road sales tax district of the Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, revenue refunding bonds in one or more series, the bonds prescribing the form, terms, and conditions of the bonds and the security therefore, designing the date, denomination, and place of payment of such bonds, providing for the payment of such bonds in principal and interest, approving and confirming the sale of such bonds, and providing for other matters with respect to the bonds. Moved by Mr. Winter for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion on item 12 by the public? Second call, public, item 12. Last and final call for public input on number 12, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we've talked about this before. Mr. Harold Block is in the audience if you have any technical questions. But this is a byproduct of the tax reform process. Now that we've consolidated the two road sales tax districts, we have to pay off the old debt from the two districts and make new debt basically in the new district to finish paying it off. We are not taking out any additional debt, and everything will still be paid off by the end of 2027 like it was supposed to before.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that said, I want to thank you for coming tonight, Mr. Block. Mr. Lorraine?
So paying off this debt, is that going to be paid off with the new tax that will be collected?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So so the fund balances that are in the old road districts
Right.
are going to remain.
Road
So-
sales tax 2 has close to $6 million.
Yes, sir.
We
That's gonna
should be
stay in.
kicking off a project pretty soon.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully. But one thing that I will ask and caution, we have problems with a lot of bridges down that bayou. So I would assume, and I hope that you make sure that we keep at least $1.5 million reserved in case one of them bridges break
Yes, sir.
before you put everything together.
Yeah, unlike the drainage districts, we're not going to empty the bank before the end of the year.
Okay. Yeah, but that's all right. Drainage district it's a worthwhile project, what we got.
Okay, there being no further discussion, we'll bring it to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas, 0 nays. And I entertain a motion to close public hearing. So moved by Mr. Gross, second by Mr. Jones. All in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas and 0 nays. Item J, proposed ordinances. We have none for tonight. Item K, resolutions. Number 13, resolution urging the U.S. Secretary of Commerce and the U.S. Trade Representative to implement the existing measures to limit the overall volume of imported shrimp in America in order to ensure the survival of our domestic wild-caught shrimp harvesters and America's access to wild-harvested shrimp from domestic waters, urging the commissioners of the International Trade Commission, when considering imports, to include all forms of shrimp from all countries and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Moved by Mr. Lorraine, second by Mr. Araby. And do we have some comments on this one?
Ms. Kim Chauvin, if you'd come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Ms. Chauvin, remember you have 3 minutes.
Okay, Kim Chauvin. I'm actually reside in Terrebonne Parish, but I've come here on behalf of the harvesters. So at 5248 Bayou-Side Drive, sorry. So this resolution has been brought because we are facing low prices, a flood of imports all over again. The president signed an EO executive order that would give us the tools in that toolbox. That mechanism is already there to proceed with something like this. What's happened is that when we brought our trade case forth and spent millions of dollars from the entire industry, the federal government took it upon themselves after going with the WTO, saying that it was a subsidy to the fishing communities, although it wasn't, because it was hardships that were provided from the Congress by allowing the imports to come in. So what they did was they took the monies and put it into the general fund, and they have not funded this industry in any way, shape, or form that has been conducive to seeing that they get $50 to $60 million every single year that were on the tariffs. And they have not pushed for FDA to do its due diligence in the testing that is supposed to be done. Matter of fact, before COVID, it was only 2% of all testing, of all seafood that was tested. That doesn't mean shrimp. That means all seafood that came into this country. So you're getting all this money, you're putting it in general fund, and you're giving nothing back to the communities that have been hurt, the industry that has paid for the anti-dumping case. So with that, I know that they're lobbying on the processing side, but also on the fisheries side, they're lobbying that they do more than the testing that is done. But since after COVID, it's only 1% of all seafood that comes to this country. And I'm going to tell you, we always get the junk. Always. In any food matter, America is getting all the junk because EU will not put up with it. They will destroy that product. So if you bring in junk to the EU, they destroy it. In the United States, all they do is find another port to bring it to, if it even gets tested. So this resolution opens up something that the toolbox is there, the mechanism is there for us to go up, and it's going into all the underserved communities. So there are boxes that had to be checked off, like I think part of it is the language barrier, not having formal education, although I think it's more like not having political education, because there is a difference between a formal education and political education, and we all know this, and how things work with trade policies, because what we're looking at is the Department of Commerce uses discretionary authorization in deciding that the Indian companies do not have to pay the tariffs coming in, or minimal amounts of the tariffs coming in. That's not what that anti-dumping duty said that they had to do. But the Department of Commerce has taken it upon themselves to do this. So we're coming at them with the EO that has been signed and going forward with this.
Very good, well articulated. Mr. Lorraine?
Yeah, I want to thank you for taking some leadership on this. And can you tell the council how many different states are doing this, and parishes along the coast in Louisiana and wherever?
Okay, so we'll tell you this. For all the years before, there were 3 major parishes that vied for first place in production. And since Ida, Lafourche is kind of, it's wavering, and we understand why. Leeville was kind of knocked off the map for a bit, and hopefully things will come back. But there was Jefferson, and Jefferson, it's not really Jefferson, it's Grand Isle. So there was Jefferson, there was Terrebonne, and there was Lafourche. Terrebonne signed on unanimously on the 22nd. I brought it to Jessica Domingue, she brought it right up, and we got that done. Cameron, which I thought we would have a problem with because they're not exactly fisherman friendly, but they passed it unanimously. So I'm trying to think, I know St. Mary's is tomorrow, and so is Grand Isle. Grand Isle has its own council, so they're taking it up there. There are quite a few others that have done it. Plaquemines, St. Bernard, Terrebonne, and Cameron so far. You guys are tonight, and then they're actually getting to St. Mary, Vermilion. I have to go meet with the parish president, hopefully, and I have a lady that's calling up. She's friends with him, Tangipahoa and St. Tammany and Ascension, and meet with the parish president so that we can discuss this, because they have fisheries there. And Terrebonne Parish, I asked them to really look at this and to do a socio-economic study, because they need to know what we're bringing to the table. And a lot of people see a man in a boat or a woman in a boat, and we are way more than that, because we have people that travel to us, and they have people that travel into Grand Isle. You had people that traveled into Lafourche that were from out of state, that were from different parishes. And I know that you guys are probably feeling it, because it's not quite as much because of Ida that has taken a lot of your docks and stuff away. But it doesn't mean you're out of the game. It just means that at this point, Ida kind of barreled you over, and hopefully you'll get back to going on that. So that is in the parishes. Now we're going over into Texas. So we've called into Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, North Carolina, and Georgia. And so that's where we're at right now. And it's all the coastal communities. Even though Ascension and them are not coastal, they do have a number of fishermen in their areas.
I think one of the main problems is I'm going to go back 52 years when I shrimp with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated in 1971 from South Lafourche High School. I went shrimping with my father. The fuel was 11 cents a gallon. The shrimp that we would catch offshore, I'm talking about way offshore, $5-6 a pound.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Today, the fuel is probably $3.50 a gallon. You don't even get $1 a pound for your shrimp, which is ridiculous. The import is killing. Now, we still have some die-hard shrimpers, some 5th, 6th, 7th, 10th generation. But it's just dying every day. So I applaud you for what you're doing, and you did bring some of these shrimpers here. And if you don't stay on top of it, listen, I've done everything I could for shrimp, because I was a shrimp at one time. And it's not just the shrimping industry. recently I was able to meet with Senator Kennedy's, some of his staff, and I brought that up. I said, man, 1971, 11 cents, today $3.40, and they're not getting anything. You got a hard time getting $1 a pound. You got to retail it. All your time that you used to sell at the shrimp shed, sell and go back, you got to stay at the dock and sell it, and sometimes it takes you a little longer. Hopefully most of the time you can sell it, because if you don't retail it, you ain't going to make it. You can't make it at the shrimp shed. And I'm going to say this, 52 years ago, what made Lafourche Parish was the shrimping industry. Look at all the shrimp sheds you had. Look at all the ice plants you had. It just circulated, but it's eventually gone. You remember, I don't know if you remember, but that ice plant that was in Golden Meadow where it went over the highway? And you had a 300-pound block of ice for about $1.50. Today you get a block of ice, which is not a block of ice, for about $20. So, and the fuel. So I told Kennedy's office that they need to come up with some kind of subsidizing the fuel for the shrimpers and try to keep them imports out. I will look into what St. Bernard did for the shrimpers, and if we can do it, I'll be happy to bring it. And I'm sure the parish president will work with us on that.
I'll bring something to you on that one.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lorraine. Mr. President.
I didn't want to cut in front of those guys, but so two things. One, I've talked to President McGinnis and St. Bernard about the ordinance they did about banning the imported shrimp. From an enforceability standpoint, we ran into a couple of issues, right? Because if you have an imported shrimp in like a lean cuisine at Walmart, like, do you go steal it off the shelf? Theirs was really broad, so we're trying to figure out how to narrow it where we're really protecting the imported shrimp coming in, right? Not so much the already prepackaged stuff.
Actually, you would be protecting the health of the citizens because,
absolutely.
no. Well, listen, understand this. The WHO did a study, and it shows that imported shrimp and imported fish will be the biggest contributors to antibiotic resistance, and it's coming. It's a health risk. So the WTO states, which is the World Trade Organization, states that you have to have either policy rationale or you have to have a health risk to ban imports.
Yeah.
You have it.
Yeah.
It's the WHO did it. We didn't do it. That's an international study.
Yeah, and look, so from your political knowledge or your education and the real world education, right? It's very easy to pass a political ordinance that says we're banning shrimp and we hold that flag, right? It's a very different mechanism for me to figure out how to go into every store in Lafourche Parish and pull out every package of shrimp, across Rouse's, Walmart, L&N, the IGA. So we're trying to work through those issues. I'm not saying we're not giving up, and Councilman Lorraine and I talked about it last week when we had lunch. I'm just not sure from an enforceability standpoint how we do it, right? I think we're going to be able to get to some point where we can put something out there. I'm just not sure what it looks like yet.
Wouldn't your Louisiana Department of Health take over on that, and wouldn't your parish?
Not if we pass a local ordinance, no.
No.
That
Okay.
would have to come from the legislature. So that's some conversation we have to have with Representative Ogeron and
Okay.
Big Mike and those guys to put LDH in the mix with us.
Okay.
Because we don't have, we have a local health unit, but that local health unit doesn't have any.
Okay, it's
Any
a little
real-
different than from where I'm
Absolutely.
coming from. Okay.
Absolutely. The second thing is Mr. Ogeron and I have had some conversations with a few shrimpers that have reached out to us via Facebook. So what you're going to see in the 2024 budget is some dollars from either CDBG or some hazard mitigation dollars post-storm to build some type of fresh shrimp market in South Lafourche, where you guys can show up with your boats, pull up to this thing, be like a full-time farmer's market where you can offload everything and sell it, where we're not having to worry about individual docks and stuff like that. Each person could get a space in it, kind of like what we have under Highway 90, but a much larger footprint, but for shrimpers and fishermen and oystermen. So we're trying to work through that as well. There's a couple across the state, so we want to do some visits to see what those look like.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Adams.
So yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I know you're talking about all the parishes, but have you went to the state?
That's next. You have
Okay.
to get all the
That was-
underserved communities first, and if you cannot even get the parishes on board, then what do you have?
Okay, no, I was just asking
Yeah.
because to see if you engage with the state at least to find out if that's.
Oh,
okay.
that's a definite
Okay.
thing,
That's-
but they're going to tell you, anytime you go to the federal government, you have to go grassroots. You have to start from the underserved communities and work your way up.
Yeah, and again, I'm all for it. I'm just, again, like he says, how are we going to stop Walmart from buying lean cuisines? But
That resolution has to do with the signature of the president in an executive order. That's something totally that they're going to have to use for that underserved community. That's different from the health risk part of it. And this is only asking for, I think, 3 to 5 years, this resolution, because you can't ask for an indefinite part of it. So this one is one we're going after the 3 to 5 years. The health risk is totally something else. I'm coming for that later.
Okay. That was
Yeah,
just my
I'm
question.
telling you, it's very convoluted. It's hard. Listen, and I know you don't know this, but NOAA, which kind of sits over us on a federal level, they are awarding for 5 years, $125 million total to all these big restaurants that use nothing but imports to market. Now this is our tax dollars here that's going to market slave labor shrimp and all this stuff that's going to kill your own communities.
Yeah.
Make it make sense.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it. It's just like, I just don't understand the logistics of trying to pull shrimp off shelves at Walmart and Rouse's.
It can be done.
Okay, I'm just,
Oh,
that's my concern.
either we look at a way to fix this, or you're going to have a community that's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Much appreciated. Any further discussion by the council? There being none, bring it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 9-0. Brings us to item 14, resolution reappointing one member to the Drainage District Number 1 Board. Ms. Chesson for the administration. Who do you have, Ms. Chesson?
One vacancy, one reappointment, Mr. Thomas Arsenault.
Mr. Arsenault, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Wait 1 minute for them all to go. You got it. Absolutely. I like that. Okay, item 15, resolution approving an agreement between Lafourche Parish School District and Lafourche Parish Government Head Start Program to coordinate efforts for the 2023-2024 school year to identify and serve children who are at risk for developmental delays and or have exceptional needs, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Chesson for the administration, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 16, resolution approving the services of DRC Emergency Services LLC for contracted services relative to private property nuisance abatement of condemned structures to proceed with demolition and debris removal, 23-094.9, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Ms. Chesson will move on behalf of the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 17, resolution recognizing and accepting the statewide energy efficiency program application award for the Matthews Complex facility and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Araby for the administration, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 18, resolution recognizing and accepting the statewide energy efficiency program application award for the Thibodeau Complex facility and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Griffith, administration, second by Mr. Melvin. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas and 0 nays. Item 19, resolution approving amendment number 1 to the agreement between the Louisiana Housing Corporation and Lafourche Parish Council Office of Community Action for the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, LAHEAP, fiscal year 2023, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 20, resolution approving an application for federal assistance in the amount of $3,315,490 for the purpose of operating a Head Start program and authorizing the parish president and council chairman to sign, execute, and administer said application and any all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Chesson for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas, 0 nays. Item 21, resolution approving change order number 1 for the project titled Hurricane Ida Repairs, Third Block Building, Phase 1, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said change order and any and all relevant documents. Mr. Grove for the administration, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays. Brings us to item L. Parish President, Department Heads, Directors, or Managers' Reports, Presentations, and or updates. Item 22, Finance Representative to present the monthly finance report as required by the state agreed upon procedures for July 2023. Mr. President?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the end of the quarter, so Renita's going to walk you through her PowerPoint.
Ms. Renita.
In the second quarter of 2023, LPG has received $441,304.98. In 2023, the second quarter shows a decrease of $136,799.47, which is a 23.663% compared to the second quarter in 2022 of a decrease. In the second quarter of 2023, LPG has received $1,551,244.14. In 2023, the second quarter shows a decrease of $353,435.47, which is a 21.730 decrease compared to second quarter of 2022. Road Sales Tax District 2. In the second quarter of 2023, LPG has received $939,287.34. In 2023, the second quarter shows a decrease of $77,314.30, which is a 7.605% decrease compared to your second quarter in 2022. Solid Waste. In the second quarter of 2023, LPG has received $2,505,876.60. In 2023, the second quarter shows a decrease of $354,501.25, which is a 12.393% decrease compared to your second quarter in 2022. Parish Transportation. In the second quarter, In the second quarter of 2023, LPG has received $197,609.94. In 2023, the second quarter shows an increase of $32,504.90, which is a 16.449% increase compared to your second quarter of 2022. Your general fund revised fund balance is $16,703,19.38. I'm going to also tell you that a part of that is the money that we received from the Hurricane Ida, which is inclusive of over $9 million. So that's not all spendable for the parish. Drainage. Drainage fund balance is in a deficit of $1,106,633.85 as of June. The library ending balance as of June is $5,134,327.63. Solid waste ending balance is $9,185,087.14. And royalty has an ending balance of $1,756,196.80. You can see on the chart for parish transportation and royalty that 2023 for the second quarter is showing a slight decrease over the second quarter of 2022. Your comparison chart for road districts and solid waste, you can see the different colors on the charts. And as you can see, for the third quarter, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. On the sales tax comparison for road districts and solid waste, it is showing where there is a decrease in comparison to year 2022. If you have any questions, I can go back over the slides. Obviously, I didn't move forward at the time I was going over them, but if you need for me to go back and repeat, I can do that. Anyone have any questions?
I have a question about solid waste.
Mr. Grove.
So we made some adjustments recently, in the last year or so with the way we do our garbage pickup, which saved the day, I guess, I don't know, for lack of a better term. Were we gonna come up short? Or we good?
No, we're going to be more than good.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions? If he's done, thank you very much, ma'am. Much appreciated. Item 23, Brooke Huddleston, Head Start Director, to present a report. And I have a big note here that I am to read that for the minutes, that all council members should have received a copy of the Head Start Annual Report and Program Information Report. It should be in front of you. If you don't have it, please speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, Brooke.
Good evening, Chairman Otam, President Chasson, and Administration and Council. I'm just here to report our annual report from the 2022-2023 school year. Most of you have seen me present, so it's just a recap of some of the things that we have. Our enrollment stood between 235 and 250 in and out. We were not in corrective action in regards to enrollment. The federal government has been providing corrective action plans or asking for corrective action plans for those that do not meet enrollment standards of their funded enrollment. We are serving over 15% of students with disabilities, where we were serving 10% prior. Excuse me. Our federal monitoring, as was already stated by President Chasson in his comments one evening at a council meeting, was we received all commendations. We received no citations. We were above performance level for our federal class scores and state class scores. We are not in corrective action at state or federal level. And of course, we did receive our State Teacher of the Year. We do have 51% of our policy council at parents. And Ms. Lynn has been our chairperson, and we are hoping that she reapplies and we have her again for another 4 years. Any questions in regards to the annual report?
Any questions on the report?
Yeah, I just want to
Mr.
ask you
Rainey.
a question.
Go ahead.
At South Lafourche, the three classes, how many students attended that when it was before the hurricane?
Before the hurricane, it was 17 students per classroom.
Per classroom?
Yes, sir.
So now they're being transferred to Lockport?
Yes, sir.
And how many students are going about?
About 50 students right now, so we're
15?
not sure. 50, yes, sir. We bus in 46, I think it is right now, 45 or 46, and we do have a few car riders that come in.
Yes, there's some car riders, but, it's kind of a long ride for a little bitty kid. If something happens, air condition breaks or whatever, and it's a far ride for a little child.
We do provide a monitor on the bus that has an iPad, and they sing songs and read stories, so they keep the kids engaged and interactive. And our federal law policy requires us to be under 60 minutes on the bus, and we do make that under 60 minutes. We have made provisions for the bridges, with the bridges not in operation. So we have made provisions for parents, and we've made pickup places for those children. We are even bringing children home. We had 2 that were sick this current school year, and the bus driver came in and brought the children home, and that was accompanied by a monitor.
So when do you see the classrooms being repaired and fixed, ready to go in South Lafourche? I want to see if you're going to give me the same answer Archie gave me.
Well, I was gonna say, I'm gonna refer that question to President Chasson. We are working with the architects. And I know Mr. Ogeron has brought me in on looking at the plans for what we need and what can be done within those settings. They are going to increase those classrooms from 3 to 4 with a lot with extra space as far as sensory room and things like that, like we have provided in Thibodeau. And Mr. Jones, that is going really well. Hopefully, we'll have that up and running in another week or two.
So you're slicker than what I thought you were. Thank you.
I'm from down the bayou.
I know.
Mr. Grove, hold on, Brooke.
Yeah, I
Mr.
just
Grove.
had about the medical exams. That's like hearing tests and things like that?
What's
y'all
that?
provide? The medical exams that y'all do is hearing tests and things
We
like
do
that?
hearing and vision, and then they have to have a physical screening to come into Head Start.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Adams.
Hey, Ms. Brooke. I see y'all closed the one on Martin Luther King. So can we open one up in my district? You know, that's a long ride from Bayou Buff to Thibodeau.
We did look at that when I first came in, and believe it or not, based on the community assessment, the poverty level within the Chack Bay area did not sustain a Head Start. We did look at it because there are quite a few kids that do come from there, but the overall poverty level was not would not sustain within the community assessment to open up that school.
So we pay a lot of property taxes, what you're saying. Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah, what we planning on doing with the Martin Luther King buildings?
Right now with the Martin Luther King building, we're using it as storage. We're closing our storage facilities, our climatized storage facilities, which we're paying in excess of close to $600 a month. So we're using that right now as climatized storage. Because the classroom was so small and it was one of the oldest classrooms, and with the community action building in front of it, it seemed to be somewhat of a safety hazard. So we went ahead and closed that one, and we redid the second classroom in Marydale. So if you'd ever like to stop and see that one, it's really nice.
Just so we do it before Daniel won.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Jones, thanks to your hard work with Senator Price, we got that money in P5 to help build that new center, which is going to be in Thibodeau, that'll hopefully merge all the Thibodeau Head Start locations into one in a new facility similar to what we have in Allendale. And Mr. Chairman, I know I said it last week or a meeting ago with Ms. PJ. I just really want to thank Brooke and the Head Start staff and her teachers and the meal techs and everybody else. These guys do a bang-up job and work on a national accreditation and stuff like that. So we're doing some good things in Head Start.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
You had some follow-up, Mr. Lorraine? No, good?
Oh, no,
All right.
no, no.
All right. Thank you very much, Brooke. Appreciate your presentation.
Absolutely, Chairman Fan. Thank you.
Brings us to item 24, Ms. Hillary Detillier, Animal Shelter Manager, to present a report.
Focus on the relationships with the shelters, so both the sending and the receiving shelters, so that they can really build a relationship and a community and a partnership. They work together and they're all part of the solution. We work with our partners to bring in pets that are unlike what they have in their community, so that they can then encourage adoption in their shelters, not only of the pets that we're transporting in, but also encouraging adoption for the pets that are already in there. The Good Place program has changed our program very drastically here in Lafourche Parish because we are unable to place all of the incoming pets in adopted homes.
Without transport, our shelter would be busting at the seams, and we just truly would not have the space to hold the animals.
Greater Good Charity has given Iberville Parish Animal Control. We're not an adult. rescue, we're a shelter. We're a place where people can turn when they're at their wits' end.
Unfortunately, in the South, many of the dogs that come into our facility are heartworm positive. Without Good Flight being able to take our asymptomatic heartworm positive dogs, some of these dogs sit here 6, 9, 10 months looking for their forever.
We're able to get these dogs fixed and vetted and into adoptive homes much faster than we were before. Our resources are limited. That's why programs like the Good Flights program are so important, because it eases off some of that burden of overpopulation.
It's not just taking them from one place to another. We see it as a collective endeavor for animal welfare, and we are very grateful to our sponsors and our partnerships.
These flights allow these animals that should deserve a home to be able to go up north and be in their new homes within 3 to 5.
All of these things come together and build a community. And that is
So I really hate to watch myself on video, but I thought that was important for you guys to see. In animal welfare, we say things like the answer is not to keep buying bigger hoses. We must turn off the faucet. Animal services will always be a revolving door of intakes and outcomes that does nothing but cost the taxpayers money unless we can get ahead of the cycle. My goal in this role has stayed consistent: to create a more humane community for people and their pets. We do this by, most importantly, getting pets back home. When we implemented the 3-day stray rule 2 years ago, we could have never predicted the results that we're seeing now. When posted on the Lost Pets of Lafourche Parish Facebook page, over 60% of all dogs are being reunited with families without ever having to involve the animal shelter. This is especially important for the South Lafourche residents who are being heavily impacted by the previous immediate pickup. Social media is a pain for many reasons, but it definitely works to find out where a dog lives. For the same reason that we don't put every person that gets a speeding ticket in jail for the night, we don't use kennel spaces in the same way. Those kennel spaces need to be reserved for the animals that truly do need to be there. Year to date, the animal shelter has been temporary home to over 1,200 animals. I can assure you guys that animals are coming through the doors, but our live release rate for the past 12 months is sitting at 91% compared to a very sad 58% in 2019. Of those 1,200 animals, approximately 850 have been kittens. We do require that those kittens weigh 2 pounds because that is the golden spay-neuter weight, and they can be routed directly for adoption, taking up less time and fewer resources. Cat colonies are being TNR'd as quickly as possible. Our team is turning off the faucet. You would be surprised how much the community is willing to help when you provide them with the proper resources. And then this is the chart of the intakes that we've seen so far this year. Just so you guys know, like, the animals are coming through the front doors. We're just doing that at a more manageable pace. The math we do at the shelter is a lot simpler than what goes on at the finance office. The animals coming in the door must be equal to or less than the animals going out. There will always be a finite number of resources: kennels, surgery time, especially employees. As you all saw in the video, Lafourche Parish Animal Shelter is a core organization in a nationally recognized life-saving transport program called Good Flight, sponsored by Greater Good Charities. Our staff is often up before the sun to load planes to fly across the country. These life-saving programs only work if we put the work on the front end with low-cost spay-neuter, owner retention, and managed intake. These are nationally proven practices, not just because I like it that way. Public shelters from across the state are pointing at our program, and you can see that in this chart. We are the black dot, and the blue is on the left side is other government shelters in the state. And then I wish I had a little pointer, but on the right-hand side, you can see where Lafourche Parish Animal Shelter falls. We're the fifth most life-saving shelter in the state of Louisiana. So that's something that we're very proud of. My team is second to absolutely none. I appreciate the support of you guys and of President Chasson as we move forward with the building process of the new animal shelter adoption building. This new building will be something that the community can be proud of physically, but I'll always be more proud of my team who does it all with very little. As always, you can, sorry. You guys can reach out to me about any specific situations. We do have an animal shelter advisory board next week, so if there's anyone that you know that has any input about animal shelter protocols, please send them that way.
Thank you, Hillary. Comments, Mr. President?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry,
Just
Chief
like Brooke, and I know, Hillary and her staff does a great job along with Ms. Betsy and the board there. I am proud to say that we opened up bids last week on the new animal shelter. After a couple of days of scratching my head to figure out how we were going to cover the overage, I figured it out today. So on the next agenda, you guys will see approving the low bid for onshore construction for the new animal shelter, which should put us going to construction hopefully in the next 45 or 60 days. And we've probably got about 200 days worth of construction. So some point next year, we'll be doing a ribbon cutting on a state-of-the-art facility that, if you've been to the animal shelter, is desperately needed. I don't know how these ladies work in those conditions, but we're finally going to take care of it for them and get it up and running.
Mr. Adams?
Yeah, that was going to be my question. I know we had talked about it maybe last year, the year before, about getting them a new animal shelter. So that was going to be my.
Oh, look, I put you
7,
some dog pictures.
I know.
Here
You should bring some next time.
No, not gonna happen. Any questions?
Any other questions? Mr. Wendell?
I'll start off, and for my Father's Day card, my daughter wrote, love your third favorite daughter, and I have a daughter and a son, but I have 2 female puppies, so that just lets you know where I'm coming from. You said your staff was second to none. I think you are as well, because I've used the services of the animal shelter, gotten some puppies. I don't know if you spay or neuter a female dog, but got that done there, and it's been nothing but a pleasant experience, except for the mean cat at the front. But nothing but pleasant, and you guys keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wendell. No further discussion? Mr. Jones, hold on, one more question.
The partnership with the city of Thibodeau, do we still do that?
The what?
Partnership with the municipalities or
Yeah,
city?
so the city of Thibodeau has their own animal control officer, and they funnel into our program. Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. That's it. Thank you, Hillary. Appreciate it. Okay, with that said, we'll move into item M, questions for the administration. There being none, we'll bring it to item N.
Oh, you went quick.
Discussion. Open discussion, Ms. Chesson.
Well, it'll roll into all of it. Yeah, so I heard today, temporary library will be opening up September 5th. And I want to say a lot of the people I've talked to are excited about it, to get those library services back where the people can access the library in the Lafourche area. So with that being said, do we know where we are on the roofing materials and all of that?
Yeah, so the roofers are almost done here. Once they're done, they're going to make their way south and crank up that roof. After they get everything dried in, we're going to turn to the mechanical side. So we're taking all of the air conditions, as I said before, off of that roof so we don't have the same issues again. And then I just got an updated floor plan from the architects. We moved around a couple of things on the government side of the house, some changes that we wanted. So they just sent the updated floor plan, so we're well on our way to working through the interior issues as well. I'm hoping, to Ms. Lorraine's question earlier to Brooke about the Head Start site, I'm hoping to have that at least the Head Start open up for next school year. We're going to push to make that happen. I'm hopeful that we get the government side up and running by late next year as well, so when we have a presidential election, people can go back to voting where they used to voting, where the registrar of voters was. And then I know the library, they're working with the architects to make some changes about how their end was laid out. So that'll be coming along sometime, hopefully in 2024 as well.
Where will they be voting for October 14th?
Same place as they did now. The early voting will be at the LaRose Civic Center.
LaRose Library or LaRose Civic Center?
I'm sorry, they were at the Civic Center, right, Mitch? Yeah, at the Civic Center. And then the regular polling places that will still be.
Thank you, Ms. Chesson. Mr. Wendell.
Okay, there's no doubt that everyone understands both the impact and the burden of inflation and cost of living. We heard from some fishermen tonight and different things, and I mean, you just look at your own finances at home, and people are no longer able to write their own paychecks. So we've all become on a fixed income, more or less. Monies just don't go as far as they once did. This impacts everyone, but especially the elderly, the disabled, including disabled veterans. I know Assessor Wendy Thibodeau is advertising an informational meeting Wednesday, August 30th, 2023 at the Lockport Recreation Center in the Curve at 6 p.m. And it's to notify the public and give them more information on potentially qualifying for an increase in their homestead exemption for disabled veterans. So if you are a disabled veteran, that may be something that you want to pay attention to and attend to find out if there's some cost savings in it for you. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Wendell. Mr. Araby.
I just want to congratulate a few of the kids from Central Lafourche High School that is representing our high school at the LSU Tiger Band and also on the cheerleading squad. I want to wish them the best of luck and hope they enjoy their tenure there. Thank you.
Well said, much agreed. Mr. Lorraine?
Yeah, well, I wanted to know about the roofing on the building down the bar, but Archie had told me once they finish here, they're supposed to come down there. But one thing that I would really like to see done, if you can get that library director and board to put that Wi-Fi at Golden Meadows, the library that was there before at that location and at South Lafourche. And if you're going to have this little library open at South Lafourche, check out the lights in the parking lot.
Okay.
It looks so nice from half of the property south that they're all lit up, and most of them are not even there anymore. That reminds me of the first hurricane we had, Zelda, or whatever it was. I was looking for some caps to put on the lights, and after Ida hit, I was looking for the whole light. But anyway, see what you could do for that Wi-Fi. Because I get a lot of people talk to me about that.
And Mr. Chairman, I know, I'm going to call Mayor Bouzigan in the morning. I know he was trying to work with Rev to get it set up down there on our existing pole. But I haven't talked to him in about a month. I'll call him tomorrow and let you know.
Let's see how good you are.
No pressure.
Thank you, Mr. Lorraine. The only thing I want to pass on is if any of y'all are interested in reading why municipalities are moving away from speed humps as traffic calming solutions, it's coast to coast. We're the only ones still going backwards on this issue. Is there any further discussion by anybody? None? All right, we got a motion on the floor by Mr. Adams, second by Ms. Chesson, that we adjourn this meeting at 18:32 hours, as there is no further business. So, meeting of tonight, Lafourche Parish Council, August 22nd, 2023, will be adjourned. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9 yeas, 0 nays.